There's one sign of attraction that looks exactly like the opposite of interest. Most people see it and assume the guy isn't confident, or worse, isn't interested at all. But it's actually one of the strongest, most involuntary signals there is. We're saving that one for the very end, because once you understand it, you'll never misread it again. Today, we're breaking down 7 real signs that show a guy genuinely likes you. Not guesses, not overthinking, actual behavioral patterns backed by psychology. Some of these are subtle, some are surprisingly easy to spot once you know what to look for. But that final sign, it changes how you'll read almost every guy you've ever been confused about. So if you've ever walked away from a conversation wondering, does he actually like me? Stick around. Keep someone specific in mind as we go through this. It'll make more sense as we get closer to the end. By the time we reach sign 7, you'll probably already know exactly who you're thinking about. Let's start with the signs that are a little easier to spot. None of these require guessing. They're patterns real psychologists have actually studied. Once you learn to see them, you'll wonder how you ever missed them before. Before we start, one thing to understand about how guys typically show interest. It rarely comes out as a direct statement, at least not at first. It usually shows up through small, sometimes clumsy, behavioral shifts. Psychologists sometimes describe this as leakage, small unintentional behaviors that reveal what someone actually feels. Guys aren't always great at hiding it, even when they think they are. So instead of looking for one obvious moment, we're looking for a consistent pattern. 3 or more of these happening together is what actually means something. Keep that in mind. One moment alone rarely tells the full story. Let's start with sign number 1. Sign number 1, he subtly tries to impress you. This might look like mentioning an accomplishment, flexing a skill, or steering the conversation his way. It's not usually arrogance, it's an attempt to seem more appealing in your eyes specifically. Evolutionary psychologists link this to a basic instinct, wanting to appear more valuable to someone you're drawn to. If he only does this around you, and not really with everyone else, that's the actual signal. The difference in his energy when you're the one in the room is the real thing to watch for. Context matters here more than the behavior itself. Watch for this especially in group settings, where the contrast becomes easier to notice. It can come across a little awkward in the moment, and that's actually part of the tell. Genuine confidence rarely needs an audience, trying to earn one usually does. Watch how the story changes depending on who's actually in the room, listening. If the audience is you specifically, that detail matters more than it seems. Sign number 2, his posture subtly changes when you walk into the room. Shoulders pull back, chest lifts slightly, he might even stand a little taller than usual. This is called postural expansion, and it's a well-documented signal in social psychology. It's largely unconscious, an instinctive attempt to appear more confident and physically present. Animals display very similar behavior during courtship. It's a deeply rooted biological pattern. If this shift happens specifically when you enter a space, that timing is rarely a coincidence. Shift usually happens within a second or 2, so it's easy to miss. But once you notice it once, you'll start catching it almost every time. It's a tiny movement, but it's one of the body's oldest, most automatic signals. Sign number 3, he teases you, then watches closely to see how you react. This isn't mean-spirited, it's playful, and it's intentional. Teasing requires a certain level of comfort, and it doubles as a way to test connection. He's not just joking, he's quietly checking whether you're engaged, amused, entertained by him specifically. If he seems to study your reaction a little too closely after a joke, that's the tell. It shows he actually cares what you think of him, not just that he made a joke. This is one of those signs that's easy to miss, because it just looks like normal banter on the surface. But the watching, the checking in afterward, that's the part that actually reveals something. He wants to know it landed well, not just that he said it. Sign number 4, he positions himself near you in group settings, almost protectively. Standing slightly closer, angling his body toward you even while talking to someone else. This kind of positioning is often unconscious, rooted in a basic instinct to stay connected to you. It's not about controlling you, it's about proximity feeling important, even without realizing why. Watch his body position the next time you're in a group together. Does he consistently end up near you, angled toward you, even during unrelated conversations? It's subtle enough that most people never consciously register it happening. But over time, that repeated positioning becomes a pretty reliable pattern. Space says a lot, especially when someone consistently chooses to stay close. Sign number 5, he subtly competes for your attention, especially around other people. This might look like trying to be the funniest one in the group or steering things back to you. It's a quiet form of competition, even if no one else in the room seems to notice. This behavior taps into a deep evolutionary instinct around competing for someone's interest. If he seems to work a little harder for your attention specifically, notice that. It's not about ego, it's about wanting to stand out to one particular person. Sometimes this shows up as him talking a little louder or a little more when you're listening. It's a small shift, but it's consistent once you know to look for it. Attention naturally flows toward whoever we're most trying to impress. Sign number 6, he remembers small details you mentioned and brings them up later. Maybe you casually mentioned a favorite show or a small personal preference weeks ago. If he brings it up again, unprompted, that's not a coincidence. People don't hold on to small details about someone they don't actually care about. It requires real attention, not just passive listening in the moment. It's a quiet way of saying, I was actually listening, and you mattered enough to remember. That kind of attentiveness is genuinely hard to fake over time. Memory takes effort, and people rarely spend that effort on someone they've already forgotten caring about. And now, sign number 7, the one we promised at the very beginning. He gets a little clumsier, a little more awkward, specifically around you. Fumbling his words, forgetting what he was about to say, tripping over a simple sentence. Most people read this as a lack of confidence or worse, a lack of interest. It's actually the opposite. It's one of the most honest, involuntary signals there is. Nervous system arousal, the same kind linked to genuine attraction, can disrupt focus and coordination. That's why he might knock something over or lose his train of thought mid-sentence. This happens because his brain is genuinely a little overloaded trying to process being around you. Confidence and ease usually come naturally around people we feel neutral about. Around someone we're genuinely drawn to, that ease can briefly disappear, replaced by nervous energy. If a guy is normally smooth and articulate, but suddenly fumbles specifically around you, that's meaningful. It's not weakness, it's your presence genuinely affecting him in real time. This is exactly why so many people misread this signal completely backwards. The very thing that looks like disinterest is often proof of the opposite. So the next time a guy stumbles over his words around you, don't write it off too quickly. It might actually be the clearest thing he's told you all day, without saying a word. Now, an important caveat before you start reading into every awkward moment. General social anxiety, or just an introverted personality, can also look similar to this. Context matters here, just as much as the behavior itself. The key is comparison. Is he consistently smoother with other people, but specifically fumbles around you? If the shift is specific to you, not just a general pattern, that's the real signal. Compare how he acts in a group with you versus a group without you, and the difference often speaks for itself. One awkward moment alone doesn't prove much, everyone has off days. But a consistent pattern, specifically tied to your presence, is much harder to explain away. Like every sign on this list, this works best combined with the others, not alone. No single moment should carry the weight of a whole conclusion on its own. Let's quickly recap the 7 signs we covered today. He subtly tries to impress you, and his posture shifts when you walk in. He teases you and watches your reaction closely. He positions himself near you in groups, almost protectively. He quietly competes for your attention. He remembers and brings up small details you mentioned. And finally, he gets a little clumsier, a little more awkward, specifically around you. Remember, one sign alone rarely tells the whole story. But when several of these show up consistently, the pattern becomes hard to ignore. And that final sign, the awkwardness, might honestly be the most telling one of all. It's the moment his composure slips just enough to show you what's underneath. Attraction doesn't always look confident, sometimes it looks nervous, clumsy, a little unsure. Now you know that doesn't mean disinterest, it often means exactly the opposite. If this helped you read a situation a little more clearly, hit subscribe for more videos like this one. We break down psychology, body language, and human behavior every single week. If you haven't seen it yet, check out our video on reading these same signs from the other side. Because sometimes understanding both sides is what makes everything finally click. See you in the next one.